The boxing world is no stranger to spectacle, but few figures have stirred the pot quite like Jake Paul. A former YouTube star turned professional boxer, Paul has carved out a unique space in the sport, blending entertainment, controversy, and undeniable ambition. His latest target? A potential exhibition match against Gervonta "Tank" Davis, a three-division world champion and one of the most feared punchers in boxing. The idea of Paul facing Davis has sparked heated debates, fueled by their massive size difference, contrasting career paths, and the question of whether this would be a legitimate sporting event or just another high-profile stunt. With discussions reportedly in motion for a November 2025 bout, the anticipation is palpable, but the details, particularly around weight class, rules, and the fight's implications, deserve a closer look. Jake Paul's boxing journey is nothing short of remarkable when you consider its brevity. In just 4 years, he has transitioned from a social media influencer to a top 15 ranked cruiserweight, a feat that has silenced some critics while infuriating others. His recent unanimous decision victory over former middleweight champion Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. on June 28, 2025, was a pivotal moment. The fight, held at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, showcased Paul's improved footwork, jab control, and ability to withstand pressure from a seasoned opponent. Chavez Jr., despite his storied lineage as the son of boxing legend Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., appeared sluggish, failing to throw significant punches until the later rounds. Boxing veteran Shane Mosley, commenting on the bout, praised Paul's performance, noting his effective movement and punch selection. Mosley was less kind to Chavez Jr., suggesting the 39-year-old should consider retirement due to his lackluster showing. This win didn't just add another notch to Paul's belt. It earned him a ranking among the top 15 cruiserweights, a status that now forces world champions in the division to take him seriously. Paul's rise has been meteoric, but it's not without controversy. Critics argue his opponents, often past their prime fighters, MMA stars, or non-boxers, have been carefully selected to pad his record. His victory over 58-year-old Mike Tyson in November 2024, for instance, drew massive viewership, 60 million households on Netflix, but was widely panned as a mismatch due to the age gap. Paul landed 77 punches to Tyson's 27, but the fight felt more like a sparring session than a competitive bout. Yet, Paul's ability to generate buzz is undeniable. His promotional company, Most Valuable Promotions, MVP, has orchestrated events that rival the sport's biggest spectacles, and his fights consistently draw massive pay-per-view numbers. The Chavez Jr. fight, for example, was a significant step up in competition, and Paul's performance proved he's more than just a celebrity dabbling in boxing. As one observer noted, Jake Paul is unequivocally the most successful fighter in history 4 years in. No one comes close. This statement, while bold, reflects Paul's unparalleled ability to blend boxing with entertainment, filling arenas and driving revenue in ways few others can match. Enter Gervonta Davis, a fighter who represents the polar opposite of Paul's journey. Known as Tank, Davis is a 30-year-old lightweight champion with a pristine 30-0 record, 28 knockouts, and titles in 3 weight classes. His devastating power and technical skill have made him a pound-for-pound standout, though he currently sits at number 10 in ESPN's rankings and number 3 in the lightweight division. Davis's career highlights include a knockout victory over Ryan Garcia in 2023 and a TKO win over Yuriorkis Gamboa in 2019. However, his recent majority draw against Lamont Roach Jr. on March 1, 2025, raised eyebrows. Many felt Roach deserved the win, especially after a controversial 9th-round moment where a potential knockdown was dismissed. The draw has set the stage for a rematch on August 16, 2025, in Las Vegas, a fight that has delayed any potential clash with Paul. The proposed Paul-Davis bout, if it materializes, would be an exhibition, not a sanctioned professional fight, due to the significant weight disparity. Paul, who competes at cruiserweight, around 200 pounds, has suggested a catchweight of 195 pounds for the fight. Davis, a career lightweight who rarely exceeds 140 pounds, would need to bulk up considerably to meet this requirement, a daunting task given the roughly 60-pound gap. Paul has outlined the rules: 10 3-minute rounds with no restrictions beyond the lack of professional sanctioning. This means no headgear, no oversized gloves, or other limitations typically associated with exhibitions, making it as close to a real fight as possible. However, the size difference remains a sticking point. As one ex-user pointed out, Gervonta Davis is 5 feet 5 inches, 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet 1 inch, 227.2 pounds. Guy is classless. The sentiment reflects a broader concern among fans. Even in an exhibition, can such a matchup be competitive? The weight issue is central to the debate. Davis, known for his explosive speed and power, would be at a significant disadvantage against Paul's size and reach. Paul's fights against larger opponents, like Tommy Fury, whom he faced at 185 pounds, and Chavez Jr. at 200 pounds, highlight his comfort in the cruiserweight range. For Davis to jump from 140 to 195 pounds would require a dramatic physical transformation, potentially compromising his speed and endurance. Historical comparisons, like Floyd Mayweather's exhibition against Logan Paul, don't fully apply. Mayweather, a junior middleweight at the time, faced a much larger Logan Paul, around 220 pounds, but Logan's limited boxing skills made the fight less competitive. Jake, by contrast, has shown marked improvement over his 10-plus professional fights, with better technique and ring IQ than his brother. Still, many argue that Davis's elite-level skills would overwhelm Paul, regardless of size. As one Reddit user noted, Tank would control the distance and have Jake swinging at air all night. The idea of Paul versus Davis first gained traction earlier in 2025, with negotiations reportedly reaching the 1-yard line before Davis's draw with Roach derailed plans. Paul has claimed that announcement videos were filmed and fully edited, indicating how close the fight was to being finalized. During an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, Paul said, "It was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but Davis has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we can run it back." The delay has only heightened anticipation, with fans and analysts split on whether the fight would be a legitimate test or a circus act. Paul's promotional flair, evident in stunts like shadowboxing a cardboard cutout of Davis on an airport tarmac, has kept the buzz alive, but it's also drawn criticism for trivializing the sport. Tyson Fury, a vocal figure in boxing, offered a nuanced perspective on the matchup. While acknowledging that most would assume Davis is the superior fighter, Fury questioned what better really means. Is he better at selling tickets? Is he better at creating controversy? Is he better at putting more eyeballs on boxing? Fury asked. In these areas, Paul arguably outshines Davis. Paul's fights, from Tyson to Chavez Jr., have drawn massive audiences, with a Tyson bout reportedly reaching 100 million viewers. His ability to leverage social media, collaborate with platforms like Netflix, and create viral moments has redefined boxing promotion for a modern audience. Davis, while a star in his own right, relies more on traditional boxing channels, and his pay-per-view numbers, e.g., 260,000 buys for the Roach fight, pale in comparison to Paul's 800,000-plus for the Tommy Fury bout. The financial incentive for Davis is clear. A fight with Paul would likely be his biggest payday, potentially dwarfing his earnings from fights against Ryan Garcia or Frank Martin. However, Davis's selective approach to opponents raises doubts about whether he'd take the risk. Critics point to his refusal to fight Shakur Stevenson in Saudi Arabia as evidence that he prioritizes easy paydays over legacy-defining bouts. One ex-user remarked, "Tank rather fight 4 Lamont Roaches for $20 million than one Shakur Stevenson for $80 million. This perception, that Davis avoids top-tier challenges, could make a Paul fight appealing as a low-risk, high-reward option, especially as an exhibition where a loss wouldn't tarnish his professional record. For Paul, the motivation is twofold: proving doubters wrong and cementing his legacy. He's vocal about wanting to face elite names like Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, and Davis to show he's more than a novelty act. "I never really thought Tank was that good," Paul said, pointing to perceived holes in Davis's game exposed by Roach's high activity and fearlessness. Paul's confidence, whether genuine or performative, fuels the narrative that he's ready to take on anyone, regardless of pedigree. His victory over Chavez Jr. earned praise from figures like Rayo Valenzuela, who suggested Paul belongs among the top 15 or 20 cruiserweights. This recognition, combined with his ranking, means champions like Badou Jack or Gilberto Ramirez might soon have to consider him a legitimate contender. The boxing community remains divided. Purists see the Paul Davis fight as a mismatch that undermines the sport's integrity, while casual fans view it as a thrilling spectacle. The size difference, Paul's 6 feet 1 inch frame and 200-plus pounds versus Davis's 5 feet 5 inches and 135 to 140 pounds, makes a competitive fight seem unlikely, even in an exhibition. Yet, Paul's ability to draw viewers ensures the event would be a financial juggernaut. As one analyst noted, boxing is always more of a show than a sport. Foreman fought 5 dudes in one night. Ali had dumb exhibitions. This is just the modern version. The comparison to historical exhibitions underscores that spectacle has always been part of boxing's DNA, and Paul has mastered that art. If the fight happens, it will hinge on Davis's performance against Roach. A decisive win could restore his aura and make the Paul bout a logical next step for a big payday. A loss or another lackluster showing might shift the narrative, potentially making Davis less willing to risk an exhibition against a much larger opponent. For Paul, the path forward is clear: continue building his resume against credible opponents while pushing for marquee matchups. His callouts of Davis, Alvarez, and Joshua show he's unafraid to aim high, even if the boxing establishment scoffs. Whether he can finesse his way to the top, as one critic put it, remains to be seen, but his impact on the sport is undeniable.